Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is March the 13th. Friday the 13th, they say. That was a movie series once or something. 2020. Strong hand. Did you have a strong hand this week? It was just a normal week for me. Golden age of the 2020s. No, the world is not ending, people. Come on. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin in motion. I am offended by selling. Oh, and man, why were some people selling for that vicious fiat? I don't even know. Okay, dudes. Wow, it is unconfiscatable. They cannot take it away from us. And I'm really excited to have some awesome guests here today for This Week in Bitcoin. We are going to rip it up. We got Guy Swan here. We got BTC Benny, and we got Cory Clipston. He's making his debut, baby. All right, and let us start with Cory. You had a tweet out there that I am going to read in a second when I find it here. Where is obviously, and this is linked to below. Everything I talk about is linked to below. All these guys are linked to below. Pound that like button. Obviously, people short of cash are going to sell everything, but that stage passes. Bitcoin is neither risk on nor risk off. It is uncorrelated. Bitcoin gonna do what Bitcoin gonna do. So, Cory, tell us the situation. Why were people all of a sudden valuing their wealth in cash, and what do you see for the future here?
Well, interestingly, one of the best things about Bitcoin, and one of its, the thing that we think will take it to the moon, is that it's the most saleable good, or in the not too distant future, it will be the most saleable good. It's liquidity begets liquidity. Well, that is true on the way down as well. So it trades 24/7, and people whose portfolios of, CLOs or triple B bonds or, leveraged treasuries or whatever it is are kind of like blowing up and they're getting margin calls. If they own some Bitcoin, that's the one thing they can definitely sell after hours on a Thursday night. And that's basically what happened. You had something that was liquid and that people could sell. And then of course there were some people that were, kind of just freaking out and selling. And some of it was also just internal market dynamics on some of the exchanges as well. So you had, basically just not enough bids on the order book on BitMEX, which drives a lot of the volume with all the leverage traders. And they basically just had cascading liquidations going down until they hit a circuit breaker, ostensibly for a hardware failure. So somebody should do maybe we can get Brecky to do a drawing of, Arthur's laptop breaking or something like that. But they pulled the plug and gave it just enough time for the price to recover on BitMEX. And that kind of led the charge back up from the depths in the threes up back around 5K last night. But, I think it's a good lesson for people in the Bitcoin space to recognize that this is a long-term non-correlated asset in a world in which, every asset basically is dollar denominated, including Bitcoin at this early stage. In a crash, all correlations go to 1 in the short term. And, I've definitely been vocal saying for a long time that if there's a market crash, Bitcoin will in the short term be very correlated to, let's say, the S&P 500, but then it will uncorrelate. And this is exactly the perfect storm that we've been waiting for. In the macro environment, and with the Fed printing money and QE4 literally being announced yesterday. We're going to do 60 billion of taking more bonds onto the Fed balance sheet every month for the foreseeable future. So, this is the time for the bright orange coin to shine.
Yeah, it amazes me that people were they had margin calls, and then I'm happy about that. Okay, then strong hands got a hold of their Bitcoin. They were weak hands. Now this is lining up very nicely for the halving. Now, again, people are very short term. It looks like a disaster in terms of price. Now, I want to go back to something you said. How big are the BitMEX situation? I don't fully get it. I don't think it was. If the plug didn't get pulled or there wasn't a technical problem, do you think the price would have gone down more? Is it that big of a player?
Yeah, I mean, just there's so much leverage trading. Like the price is the price on that exchange. And so then the other exchange, people playing ARB across the exchanges would have kept on going down. Now, at some point, the bat signal would have gone out. And if you got into like the twos or the ones, I think literally every Bitcoiner on the planet would have gotten the bit signal and backed up the truck.
Yep.
But I'd say like on balance, it's probably good that they either did have or did fake a computer crash. I definitely didn't want to see a one handle on Bitcoin last night. I'm glad it stopped in the mid to upper threes.
Yeah, and it was only there for like a few seconds. I mean, I didn't actually see it happen. Although I got in at the low fours, that was real nice. Anyway, okay, so let's move on. BTC, Betty, what do you think about all this? What were you doing yesterday?
I was stacking the hell out of this dip. I was just there sending e-transfers and loading up. I actually, to be honest, this entire drop down, even though it twists your gut in an absolute knot to see how quickly it can move, I mean, it's a huge throwback to how I felt years ago, in the past few years. It felt that visceral, like, oh my God, what is happening?
2013 PTSD.
Yeah, 100%. But the beauty of it is, having been through that before, I was able to look at it and be like, this is a hell of an opportunity in front of me. And I just started scaling in. And each day is like hourly DCAs, just bit by bit. And, you catch some of the swings, you catch some of the bounces, but man, just doing that and being okay with it is a beautiful thing. Like at first, you do get that PTSD, but then you're just numb to the world and you're just okay. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm happy with where I'm at. But the beautiful thing about it is, again, yeah, we had BitMEX shut off the lights for a little bit there, but I saw Rodolfo Novak tweet out that, hey, this is what a free market looks like. And while it hurts sometimes, it also gets us in a place where we're not being babysat 100% of the time, and where people learn from these kinds of mistakes, and they look and they go, oh, maybe I shouldn't over leverage myself. And you learn those hard lessons that, the New York Stock Exchange is not going to let you learn when they cut off all trading at 7% and then print trillions of dollars to pump into equities again. So yeah, I don't know. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It does its thing, and I'm just happy to be along for the ride.
Oh yeah, I like that attitude, people. Pound that like button. Check out all these dudes below. Okay, Guy, your turn to tell us what you were doing yesterday and what's your take on all this.
Probably my heart rate was probably over 100 for about 80% of the day. But it was a roller coaster, man. I definitely had my troughs and then went kind of euphoric towards the afternoon. It was like when it was dropping, when the drop was minor in the grand scheme of the whole move. Like when we were moving down into like the low sevens and stuff, I was nervous. And then I got super concerned when like it just, that candle just blam. I mean, we went through 6 without even thinking. Like it was just like whoosh, and it was gone. And that's what had me worried that something had happened. And I said in our last chat that I just got off of, that I went hunting for, I went Google searching for SHA-256, like most recent news items and quantum computing. Like did somebody like break a key? Like, is anything fundamentally changed with Bitcoin? And there's nothing, obviously. I didn't really expect to find anything, but I had to be at least a little bit concerned, and even tweeted about like, is this like some sort of institutional investor that's just dumping everything because, they got word that there's going to be some horrible regulation tomorrow morning. I think it was actually Cory, you responded. It's like, man, they are way too busy. Like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And but that was like kind of that period. So whenever I tweeted that out, that was like that period where I was like, what is actually happening here? And then when I couldn't find anything, that's when the adrenaline just got pumping, and I was trying everything I could do to buy. And I'm absolutely shocked, considering my exposure to Bitcoin right now, how you actually just mentioned this, Cory, about how Bitcoin is liquid. Like, you could sell Bitcoin all day long, all night, and like 24/7 markets. But fiat, holy crap, trying to move money to buy Bitcoin in like a couple of hours is a nightmare.
Mhm.
It is an absolute nightmare. I literally, I was up late going through papers and setting up online accounts with retirement thing. I still can't figure out how to get the freaking money out of it. And it's just, all I can think is not my keys, not my coins. like none of that money is mine until they give me permission. Yeah, I scrambled and bought with as much fiat as I had available, and I am desperately trying to get a big chunk into it, and I just don't know how long it's going to take. And I'm going to be very sad if I miss this, because I've been trying to make
next level Bitcoining is something that almost none of us are actually capable of doing. I know I'm never able to, which is actually keeping fiat on an exchange.
I know.
In case it dips, like for a big buy, but it's like absolutely impossible, because I listen to a damn podcast and I just like smash by and like it's all gone.
By the way, is somebody's kids seeing the chart for the first time in 24 hours in the background, or?
Yeah. Someone's kid is in shock there. Oh my God!
Oh, what happened? Oh, no.
I think that's
so much red.
It's probably on my end. I think they're actually all the way downstairs, but our schools are shut here in the LA area, and I am here.
Well, let's talk about that situation, the larger situation.
I'm going to go and close this door. I'll be right back.
All right, yeah. So what caused the panic, BTC Benny, obviously is the virus situation, and the president of the United States is going to make a speech in 13 minutes that should it'll rock the Bitcoin market again. So people, if you're checking the price now, you're probably going to get, you're going to have a heart attack soon. Once he starts talking, it's going to go wild. But again,
this
is short-term type of stuff. But this, unfortunately, I believe people are just panicked out of their minds. So we're going to be dealing with this for a while. So what do you foresee economically here for the next month or two, and in terms of the virus, BTC Benny?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think things will be worse before they get better. And part of it is there hasn't been a lot of testing in the US. So already just the sticker shock of seeing those numbers will be panic inducing probably for a lot of people. Plus we're starting to see, NBA canceling the season, NHL canceling, like Tom Hanks' wife has it. The Prime Minister of Canada, actually his wife has it, and he is now in self-quarantine. So he's checking to see if he's got symptoms too. And so, you're going to continue to see those things, but it will make its rounds. Again, like it's nice to see that, people are taking measures to try to not spread it, because obviously you don't want the elderly or the immunocompromised to be affected by this. But, you do what you can. Realistically, it's just kind of a matter of time before it makes its rounds through just about everybody. But the markets are not going to be. I don't see them as being rational about this. I mean, we literally they're pumping 1.5 trillion into repo markets like today. Yeah. Like it's pretty wild. It's pretty insane. But like, I don't see it getting better in the near term. But the nice thing is, the beautiful thing about this is, in the face of what is likely to be some of the craziest QE we've ever seen, Bitcoin will be tightening Bitcoin will be reducing the supply of new coins. It's like, and that's gotta grab headlines. That's gotta turn some heads where people are saying, wait, we're about to print unprecedented amounts of money and Bitcoin is tightening its monetary supply? What? Like, and that's what it's built for, because nobody can sweep in and change that issuance. Nobody can say, hey guys, you know what? We got to print more of this stuff. We got to keep ourselves safe. We got to stop the market from crashing. Print more, print more. Nobody can do that. And that's what Bitcoin is for, so that you don't have somebody in a position of power going, okay, we need to make a snap decision. We got to change this. It's all bad. We don't have those panic moves. The only panic you see is weak hands selling and strong hands buying. I was panic buying through this. So, yeah, man, it does get your heart racing, but if you can learn to see past it and ask those fundamental questions, is Bitcoin still functioning as it should? Then what are you doing? So yeah, I'm happy to sit through it and watch it unfold.
Excellent point you make there. They can try to cancel sports, but first of all, the NBA and NHL have been delayed. They're not the season isn't canceled yet. Who knows? But they cannot cancel or delay the halving. That is why Bitcoin is virus resistant. It's the only thing on the planet. Everything else they're rescheduling, they're canceling, et cetera. Bitcoin halving, So the statistics you just gave there, I don't know why anyone in their right mind would turn a Bitcoin into something that's being printed like mad now. It seems so illogical, but we are clearly living in insane times, just absolutely insane times. So, okay, Cory, your take on the virus. Are people going to keep panicking over this? Do you see Bitcoin affected by this some more? Having thoughts, anything?
Yeah, I mean, in as much as like it does live in the world with people, like obviously we're being affected. We got affected pretty drastically this week and last night. I think overall, like, again, Bitcoin's going to do what Bitcoin's going to do. The halving was, the halving is going to happen. And, this is basically an adoption story. I mean, I think everyone who knows me and knows what we're working on with Swan Bitcoin understands that we believe the most important thing is getting lots more people to store lots more of their value in the Bitcoin protocol. And that this is really a demand driven story. The supply is fixed and known, and it's just being distributed a little bit, TikTok next block over time, as John Vallis says. But this is really a demand story, and it's on us to go and recruit new Bitcoiners and get them to increase the size of their stacks.
Speaking of demand, now, is your operation open yet over there?
So we have a few alpha testers coming in over the next few days, and then we'll be live to everybody on March 25th. So 49 US states, excluding New York with the BIT license. But yeah, people in 49 states will be live playing with Swan Bitcoin very, very soon. Very excited about it.
Well, good. I mean, who knows how long this sale will last for the Bitcoin. So I'm sure you guys...
I'll preview it. That's the actual app right now.
All right. For all you people who don't want to use Coinbase, et cetera, and we'll talk about that more. You'll give us an update at the end of the show and everything like that. I definitely want to hear more about that. So let's go down to Guy here. Your take on, you said that there are rumors that they might shut down your county, put you guys, just a rumor, but what's your take on the future, the near future of the virus and the economic turmoil and the panic, not just Bitcoin, but the traditional financial markets too?
Yeah, I think so much of the confidence in the legacy markets has just been based on, it's been such a bubble that, like, I think once that confidence has shaken, I think it's gonna be really, really hard to bring it back. Like it's like one of those things, like it's like if the Fed, suddenly turned around tomorrow and was like, oh, we're going to have a monetary tightening and we're going to be responsible and nobody's going to run any debts. It's like nobody would believe it, like it would just be like, that's not what's happening here. But as far as the virus is, I have no idea to the severity of this thing. There's a really interesting video. I posted it in the chat. Actually, I just found it. Again, the 3 blue 1 brown. Is that what the account is? Yeah, 3 blue 1 brown. They have a bunch of really great just math videos, and like there's a really good one on like SHA-256 and how much computing power it was. That's where I found out about that YouTube channel. But he actually did one on the virus, and kind of the expected numbers that we could see, and uh, kind of when we might actually see when it hits the curve, the part of the curve where it's no longer accelerating, but it's turning into an S curve, and that our behavior to flatten out the curve can actually change that. And there's been a lot of adjustment in my local area until this is the first time I've heard of like our local government actually like taking moves to do something. Again, it's a rumor, so I don't really know, but the person who I heard it from is someone who would be in a position to overhear it. So, but there's been a lot of changes. Like I mentioned a handful of them. Like my wife's business is going fully remote already. The local grocery stores, like everybody's like running cleaning crews just like constantly through things. Like my wife said that like literally the cleaning crew is usually not there until everybody closes down, and they're walking through the halls just cleaning stuff all the time. um, Purell and like disinfecting wipes are available at the grocery stores. They're stopping all their samples and stuff. Like there's been a pretty broad response to it, and I'm hoping, depending on the degree of contagiousness of this virus, that really does have a huge effect. I mean, that's obviously the very sort of behavior on a pretty widespread kind of decentralized basis that would make a move in something like that. So aside from that, though, the markets are, everybody's scared to death. And I think that's what a lot of this is a flight to safety. And probably what precipitated the flash crash with Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is not, except for us, like Bitcoin's narrative and Bitcoin's like fundamentals are not very well known. It is a flight to safety for me. And that's why, a lot of us end up scrambling to buy some when a price like this is shown to us. But for the most part, it's a speculative asset. It's this extra risk that they were taking during a bull market. And now that is turned around, they're like, all right, I just need to get out of this and go back to dollars. And I just need to be in cash. I need to be not exposed to all of this stuff. But as you mentioned, Ben, just talking about, there's going to be trillions of dollars. Like we're about to enter another continuation of this unprecedented money printing. And I think the idea that fiat currency is that flight to safety is going to start to be questioned. People can't ignore. I'm hearing it from people who had no business talking about it. Friends who couldn't have cared less a couple of years ago about talking about how much money the Fed is printing. And you end up in a situation like this, and it can't be ignored anymore. Suddenly, monetary policy is a part of the discussion. Suddenly, what all this means and why prices are the way they are. It's kind of like I've been referring to our age and all of this stuff that we've been going through. It feels like the age of disillusionment. All of our narratives are breaking down. We no longer have that cohesion of like, oh, we're one country. Where like divisions are increasing. We're separating into thousands of communities, all with their own narratives, and things are just changing at an incredibly rapid pace. And part of that disillusionment is that our financial system is safe and trustworthy and resilient, because it's not. And we're finding that out. And no matter how long another bear period we may find ourselves in, and how serious this move in Bitcoin is, I think the halving coming up will be such a polar opposite perspective that it will just kind of sit there going, yep, this is your problem. Yep. Like, don't forget that while you're doing all of this, this is what we are doing. And now that it's come to the front of the discussion, I think Bitcoin will continue to squeak its way into all of those conversations. And if we find another boring period, whether it be at $3,000 for 3 months, if it finds that floor of true Bitcoiners that are DCAing in, and we got Swan Bitcoin. I'm waiting. What was it? 25th? You said
25th to everybody in the U.S. Yeah,
to everybody in the U.S. All right. So,
but I have a third call with the lawyers. We're going after UK, Canada, and Australia at the same time next.
Hell yeah,
All right.
That's awesome.
In motion, baby. I like to hear that.
In motion.
Guy, I like your point how it's a flight to safety for you, and for a lot of people in the Bitcoin, but most people didn't see it that way, and that's why they're running away. They have to liquidate. They were in over their heads with all sorts of stuff, but again, it's going into that. People in the chat have said this. Rocky said something like this. It's going from weak hands who really didn't understand what they were into to strong hands who it's a flight to say this is safe. This is a time of, the dollar is being printed away. Why would I want to be in the dollar now, especially when Bitcoin's on sale? So this is just such a unique opportunity and a positive. But
I have a thought on that.
Yes.
On that point, and I was just asking in your public chat how many Europeans we had in here, and a bunch of them are chiming in. I personally don't think this is the cycle that people flee the dollar. I think the dollar is going to be, the flight to quality for the entire globe for the most part. There's not nearly enough capacity in Bitcoin to handle all of the people that need to store value somewhere. So they're going to keep on clamoring for dollars. You're not going to be able to stop the dollar from rising against all these other fiat currencies for quite some time. Treasuries are still going to be, one of the pillars of the store of value for a long, long time. If you hear somebody like Nick Bhatia talk about, the three pillars of global liquidity will be gold, Bitcoin, and U.S. Treasuries for the next, many decades. What I do think is potentially really interesting about this cycle with coronavirus tipping some of these absolutely totally bankrupt, non-capitalized banks in the Eurozone over the edge, which I think has a very likely chance of happening, is that unlike in the 2016, 2017 cycle where Europe made up something like 4 to 6% of market volume, I think there's a very good chance that Europe tips over and becomes like the story of the next Bitcoin cycle, and that Europe might be something more like 20 or 25% of Bitcoin purchases in this cycle. Because of what I think is likely to happen in Europe. I think they're not handling coronavirus well, and there's 10 times, 20 times more fragile than the banking system and the economy of the US. That's how I see it.
There you hear it, you Euro holders, you valuing your wealth in Euro, flight to safety in the Bitcoin right now. I do agree with you. The dollar isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but I just think logically, I don't want to be holding. I know what's better than the dollar. Okay, most people aren't going to understand what is better than the dollar, that it's Bitcoin. But to see the 1.5 trillion printing out of it's amazing. But you're right, it's the best of the worst. It's the best of the fiat, and I don't predict dollar collapse at all. I know a lot of people love to hear stuff like that, but still, just because it's not going to collapse doesn't mean that Bitcoin isn't where you should be. It's the best. And on that note, we've got a super chat from Super 4 Poppy, and this is for BTC Benny, because we haven't heard from you for a while here. This guy, and thank you for the €5. This dude sent €5. Thank you, Super 4 Poppy. He says, Caitlin Long says that we now face a period of deflation before this turns into inflation. Bitcoin suffers now, but this will not be forever. What's your take on that, BTC Benny?
I don't have the context of what Caitlin Long was talking about. I'm assuming she means dollar deflation because of the liquidity crunch, which yes. A lot of people weren't expecting Bitcoin to dump with the markets, but as we've been discussing the whole show, of course, if you're getting margin called and you need liquid cash, Bitcoin is super easy to sell at any point in time. Okay, let's go back to the 2008 financial crisis. Gold got slammed then too. A lot of people forget that it wasn't an instant increase in gold. It was 2011 when gold was hitting all-time highs. But when the crisis first hit, people needed cash. And so even the safe haven asset of the time before Bitcoin existed, that got slammed because people needed cash. They needed to cover positions. They were hurting. They needed cash. And so what do? You go to whatever asset you can sell, and safe haven assets are in there. Now, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is a safe haven asset. I view it more as just well, at least not yet anyways. But more of an uncorrelated asset. And we've seen a lot of interesting things. People will zoom in on the chart over the course of a week or 2 days or something and say like, hey, this is clearly correlated to the stock markets, without having any. You can zoom in at any point in time with any other asset and decide the correlation or non-correlation if you look close enough. But really, I think that's dead on. Obviously, Bitcoin gets slammed at the beginning of this, but like we've been saying the whole show, you're going to be able to now in real time contrast and compare how this crisis is dealt with two polar opposite ways of dealing with monetary policy. And months, years down the road, you'll be able to look back to this point in time and say, look at how far these two systems have diverged from each other. They were both trying to deal with the same problem and got totally different results. And I look forward to seeing those results.
All right, good. Positive future here, dudes. This is a little bit of the turbulence, but man, if you're in for the long term, and if you've been around for a while, I got veterans here. We've seen this all. We've seen this happen. Well, not this exact thing happen before, but we've been through these little panics. And speaking of these little people, the impulsive people out there, they love to spread the FUD. And something that I saw going on, I couldn't believe this one made a comeback. I thought this one was dead forever. What do you think? The going to zero FUD was all of a sudden back at BTC Benny. Did you see some of that? I couldn't believe it.
I saw that paired with mining death spiral, which what is this? Is it 2016? Is it 2012? Like what year is it? It's insane. I mean, going to zero. You know what got brought out of the archives the other day was Alex. Oh, I'm forgetting his last name, but anyways, the wonderful video of you don't want to buy Bitcoin because you know it's going to crash, and he goes through all of the highs and lows, and he said this one time Bitcoin went to $30 and then it crashed down to $2, and he keeps on going up with every new high and every new higher low, like over the course of years. And he says so at the end he's ending up at like $1,200, and he's like, the moral of the story is you don't want to buy Bitcoin because you know it's going to crash. And he pulled that one out of the archives the other day, and it was the perfect echo of all of the sentiment that I'm hearing now. Again, there's more hodlers of last resort around now, and obviously we have surrounded ourselves with those type of people, but you do see the mainstream sentiment as well. It's hard not to. And even in the chat, there's people right now, they're here, but they're freaking out. They're wondering, how can you still be bullish on Bitcoin at this point in time? Like there's a few people chatting in there, and they were even around for the lows of December 2018. And they're still freaking out. They're more scared now. Part of that is probably because they're more exposed than they were a couple years prior, and that's part of it. When you have more capital in it, even though you may have bought at lower prices and dollar cost average in, it is a gut check to see it dip that much. But you over the years you become privy to the way things go, and even though it may be a little bit of a shock to the system, you get used to it. And this is the consequence of having a truly free market in Bitcoin, and it will continue to be this way until the market cap is large enough that it doesn't get smacked around by a few people being over leveraged on BitMEX. So yeah, I'm happy to just witness this, but yeah, I mean, everybody's. How many people have owned Bitcoin ever? There's a lot more FUD going to zero, mining death spiral. There's a lot more of that to come, even in the next decade or two.
All right. I was going to ask Guy Swan what his favorite FUD coming back from the dead is, but I don't know. I want to focus on the positive
Death
here for
spiral.
Death spiral?
Minor
Okay.
death spiral.
Death
Dude,
spiral.
I go through that every time, and it's funny. I'm always lambasted with that one by people who haven't been through the previous two cycles, like the last two halvings, and it's like, oh no, this time it's different because it's getting cut in half worse than the last time it was cut in half. And I'm just like, I just, do you not understand that the difficulty adjustment is a very simple, very consistent mechanism that adjusts for exactly the reason you claim nothing is going to work and that this is going to die. But whatever, it just seems so silly to me. It's hard to even address.
All right. Real quick, one thing that a few people have brought up here, and we'll stick with Guy. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. The talk of the town's obviously been Bitcoin, but it's the whole crypto market has gone down. Do you see this panic having any special effect on the altcoins, or will they just continue to follow Bitcoin, or is this their end?
I don't know. Ignorance can persist for a very, very long time. I don't think there is much of anything. And in fact, I actually think decentralized shitcoins have better potential than decentralized ones because if it's actually attached. I mean, granted, most of them, there's none of them really have any like fiduciary duty, but the more they're actually attached to something that's you can easily define, the less they'll be in the runnings for being money. Like the less they'll compete as a monetary instrument. But DeFi apparently just had a nuke go off yesterday. And another bug that I'm not sure if it was like a variation of the same bug that happened last time when a whole bunch of people got just obliterated of the money they had available up on it. But like $4 million worth just got wiped out by somebody. And it just seems inherently, the idea of DeFi, it's clearly obviously not the decentralized version of it obviously is highly, highly questionable. But then at the exact same time, I don't understand how you have a lender, like a creditor-debtor relationship with no, like it's an inherently counterparty risk, like relationship. So it doesn't seem like it would make sense to like decentralize the market. You want plenty of alternatives and, maybe you want to do microloans and all this stuff, but I don't see how you do that without a trusted relationship. It seems like a complete oxymoron and basically a time bomb waiting for someone to exploit, some sort of spread in your contract or inevitably some sort of liquidity bug that, what we had yesterday and just wipes it all out because you're not caring who you're loaning to, like it just, I don't know. The whole thing.
Yeah, let me see. Cory, did you know about this DeFi? You want to say something about the DeFi thing?
Well, I was going to say I'm not going to hate on the idea of some kind of like smart contract collateralized loan because I do think we'll see that in Bitcoin someday, and I do think it will be like really valuable for people to be able to get instant liquidity by posting 2x collateral or whatever it is. And it's a popular service among Bitcoiners today with centralized counterparties like, Unchained, BlockFi, Ledn up in Canada, so it is being used by lots of Bitcoiners to not have to sell their Bitcoin and, make a mortgage payment or whatever the case may be, fund a startup, stuff like that. So I'm not like necessarily against some aspects of financialization around and on top of Bitcoin. I think we'll see lots of it and we'll like it. It's just that the financial sector is going to be, probably 1/5 the size that it is today because you can't rehypothecate Bitcoin without people saying like, well, show me the reserves. You can always just walk away with your Bitcoin and go and work with somebody else. but yeah, so what specifically happened yesterday basically was as they were, essentially doing automatic, fully automated margin calls on this pile of ether that was backing some DAI, there were just no buyers. And so it just like tracked all the way down, and some dev set a bunch of buys at like a penny and picked up $4 million worth of ETH that quickly snapped back from you could just take the ETH and then move it off platform. And, ETH bottomed at like 85 yesterday and it's at 122 today. And that guy's got like $6 million worth of ETH now.
Whoa. I didn't hear that one. Wow. Oh man, it's a wacky world. This is the golden age, people.
If you didn't think that you could make money in DeFi, you can definitely make money in DeFi. You just need to take it from dummies that put their money in DeFi.
Well, you could definitely make money in Bitcoin too, because there are a lot of dummies that are selling their Bitcoin now.
That's right.
Look at it that way. All right, Benny, do you have anything to say on these altcoin things, or anything that was left out of the whole this week craziness that you wanted to say? Because we're going to move on to some other topics.
Yeah, I did want to draw attention to some sentiment that I saw coming out of what I believe to be more people that are in the altcoin space, as opposed to kind of the Bitcoin space. A lot of the Bitcoiners are very like, hey, let it do what it's going to do. We don't need to intervene here. The market will sort itself out. It's very kind of a hands-off attitude from a lot of Bitcoiners, and that kind of free market approach. And there's a tweet that really bothered me that I just saw kind of today. I was talking about how these crazy price moves are a quote unquote a strong argument for industry-wide circuit breakers on all exchanges. And I was like, well,
What?
no, that's the total opposite of what needs to be done. And so like I quoted the tweet and I said,
let's call him out. It's Tushar Jain from Multicoin Capital.
Yes.
It's all in the title of the firm.
Yeah. So okay, I'm just gonna read his tweet and then I'll read what I said. So he said, today's price moves in crypto are a strong argument for industry-wide circuit breakers. The crypto market structurally broke today, and leading exchanges need to work together to prevent a repeat. And he, tags basically all of the CEOs of the major exchanges. And I retweeted it and I commented, this is the exact opposite of what needs to be done. Free markets are a feature. Many people learn important lessons by not having their hands held, and thus make better decisions in the future. That kind of attitude that he has is the reason why the entire financial system today is screwed. And people need to get their heads on straight and learn hard lessons from time to time so that they don't take as many ridiculous risks. I think people need to learn on their own, and people do. How many XRP army people have dropped off the face of the earth because they got wrecked? That's how you learn lessons. So, that's my 2 cents. That's my hot take.
Dude, this is where the big boys play. We don't need some circuit breaker. And if someone wants to make their own private circuit breaker, let them. But no.
Sure.
Did you guys have anything to add to that, though?
Yeah, I agree. It's an absolutely horrible idea, and it's stupid. It's trying to get it's attempting to create centralized points of failures and centralized decision making and management into the industry, which I think will actually lead to. It leads to what we have in the legacy market. Like eventually, like it's just a trend toward that direction of complacency, dependency, and then a complete loss of resilience in the end, of robustness. And I think what we need is, and what Bitcoin has provided is market lessons, and the fact that there is always risk, and to teach people, not your keys, not your coins, like to teach people not to over leverage. And there's a very, very long maturation process in that market. And if we don't allow it to happen, well, then we'll never solve the problem. So,
Cory, any thoughts on that multi-coin tweet before we move on?
No, I mean, he got smacked down publicly and privately pretty quickly for that one. It was just a really wrong-headed, stupid reaction on his part.
All right. So now that I got you here, Tell us more about your product, Swan. Any obviously you mentioned some dates that are coming up, but anything else you wanted to add about it?
Yeah, no, I mean, really, we think the best product for buying Bitcoin would automate three things. It would automatically withdraw from your bank account. It would automatically buy the Bitcoin, and it would automatically withdraw that Bitcoin to, the address or wallet of your choice. And so that's the product that we've built. We'll be testing it with some close friends and some QA folks over the next week, and we'll be live to everybody on March 25th. And, I think people already know us pretty well from being active with Give Bitcoin, which was the product we put out last fall, and using that to, sort of as a scaled evangelism product. We have a massive focus on education. No accident that our CTO is Jan Pritzker, who wrote Inventing Bitcoin, and, our head of education is Brady from Citizen Bitcoin. I want to thank Guy for licensing us his name for free. That was really kind of him. We're just Swan. He's Swan to the nth power.
Yeah. I'm working on chapter 4. Working on chapter 4 right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's also the voice of Give Bitcoin in the book that we're writing and putting out chapter by chapter for those people that receive Bitcoin gifts through the platform. But no, I think we're eager to see this thing roll out. I've been wanting this service available for myself and for my family and for my friends for a long, long time. Something that's Bitcoin only, and it's not that this isn't available in certain forms through the exchanges. It's that if you have someone that you want to get into Bitcoin and you don't want them to be bombarded with, free Stellar if you go through this tutorial, or you don't want them to go to, Coinbase.com and have dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin being the number 14 action as you go from the top of the page. The 14th thing they suggest is storing some value in the Bitcoin protocol, which is really what it's for. So we just want to be, right up front and center, as simple as can be, just start stacking and make it super easy. And we are also launching with the lowest fees by far, lower than Square, lower than River, lower than Coinbase, lower than Gemini, lower than anybody in the US, and also going live to the entire country on day one, other than New York. So 49 states on the 25th.
Wow. Competition. I love it. Thank you for that update. And thank you for being in motion and bringing a competition. There are a lot of people that just complain. They're like, I hate Coinbase. Well, make your own Coinbase. And this dude did. So, all right, Swan, Guy Swan, it's so nice of you to license your name for free. You're not suing anyone.
There's an ongoing lawsuit. I can't talk about it right now. We'll see how it unfolds.
All right.
Yeah, he basically extorted us and said, well, you have to sponsor the podcast. So we agreed to that.
It's just payoff money. It's just,
yeah, big boss Swan.
All right. And I'm looking forward to having Jan on this show too, one of these days. I talked to him in the chat. That'll be great. We bring you the best guest in the freaking space here. Pound that like button. Now, Guy Swan, people love when you talk about the latest in Lightning Network, the latest in tech in Bitcoin. Let's hear some tech news from Bitcoin land here, instead of all of this this crazy money noise that we've been talking about all day.
Well, if you've established a position on Lightning, you like just like myself, the mempool right now, because of all this chaos, is like 60 megs. So there is a huge backlog of transactions right now. But all the stuff that I do on a daily basis is on Lightning, and none of it matters. And I absolutely love it that it's pretty amazing to see it actually like provide its use case, is that I can bounce between my wallets, and like I've been dropping the mempool stuff in our Telegram chat in the Crypto Economy crew, and I've moved from Breeze on my Casa wallet, which I'm actually like shutting down to transfer to a new machine, a bulkier machine, hopefully with actually Casa on it. I've been bouncing around from that, the LNTX spot in Telegram and all this stuff. And it's just kind of funny. Like I have, 5 or 6 transactions maybe in the last 2 or 3 days. And all of the mempool noise and all the like, oh, what are the fees right now has just been nothing to me. And it's really, really cool to see that do its thing and continue to work. and I'm super excited about Strike. I literally think if Strike turns out to be as awesome as I'm hoping, probably Swan Bitcoin and Strike will be the only two things that I need. Like they will literally just be my whole set, like my strict like savings. I don't have to think about it, because good God, like Cory, like you said, I can't believe how long it has taken for somebody like, what have you been doing for all of this time? I'm super disappointed that you did not provide me with this service in 2013.
But it was hard to see that this space was available.
Yeah.
You know, like until you really get into it and you start to understand like how Coinbase just feels so big and feels so unassailable, and you just think there's people already doing this, and you know it is kind of like in there and it's buried, and you just don't realize how many people, the groundswell of support of people that just want something simple that does only the thing that they want, and even more so how much they want to have the top place to recommend to everyone that they care about, so that their friends don't get confused and buy the cheaper Bitcoin or get suckered in by Ripple or, you know, whatever it is, or just get convinced that trading is something that they should do. Because once those exchanges have your email address, all they're going to do is tell you about all the money that you can make from trading, and your friends and your family are going to get wrecked.
Yeah. And they're going to be constantly panicked, and they're going to think it destroys the idea of Bitcoin as a long-term investment and as any sort of a safe haven as far as like the consistency of its protocol. When you're the second you log in, you see this big ridiculous chart with all these candles on it, you know, like, and it never needed to be there, and I never liked the way it was always set up, and I always just wanted to set it and forget it. And there was this one called Lawnmower way back when that I used that I loved, and then they shut down after a little while. They turned into an exchange because they're like, oh my God, I can make so much more money doing this. But it was a roundup thing. It was every time I make a transaction, they would round it up. I gave them full control over my bank accounts for this service. But they would round up every transaction to the next dollar amount, buy that amount in Bitcoin, and then like send it to me. And I was just like, I'm done. This is it. This is how I'm going to stack Bitcoin forever, indefinitely. And I was so happy. And it lasted like a couple of months before they were like, we're fully exchange. You can buy stonks, and we're canceling this service and all this stuff. And I was like, man, I hate you.
It's really astounding that there are so few methods to just like DCA into Bitcoin without having to like duck into a dark alley and have some dude try to shill you like a bunch of hot garbage out of his jacket. Like it's crazy that you have to navigate that space just to like get some regular Bitcoin here and there. Like I should say that if people are like, if somebody really, really likes to trade, whatever it is, be my guest. But at the same time, like, I think having it separated out is an important thing. And having this is just the responsible, easy, well, I'm just going to DCA Bitcoin. But then, like, you know, if you're being crazy and you're rolling the dice, then have it as its own separate, like out of the way, like, again, that it's I would say it's, I won't say a crime, but it's like, it's really disheartening for that to be people's first experience in Bitcoin, being like, hey, here's Bitcoin like way down here, but like, look at all these and like the learn about this and maybe buy. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's too bad.
It was either Matt or Marty that said that discovering Bitcoin in an exchange interface is immoral.
It was, yeah, Matt Odell.
Interesting, very interesting. All right, dudes, we're getting toward the end of the show here. I want to hear everybody's closing remarks and, you know, anything that was left out, anything they want to promo. We'll start with Benny, because you haven't talked about you know, what you've been doing, if you want to share anything. But I do want to have a bonus question too. 6 months from now is going to be September the 13th. All right, that's 6 months, right? And everyone answer this question when they're, you know, promoting whatever they want to talk about in their final comments. But where do you see the market then? Not in terms of price, but are things back to normal by then? Or are we? Do we have a big smile on our face when we look back on these last few days back 6 months from now? So Benny, you can answer that question and tell us, you know, what was left off of the show that you wanted to add.
Yeah. So Yeah, I think 6 months from now we'll look back and be like, man, that was a hell of a month that we had there. Like I do see it getting, maybe not for Bitcoin, I don't know, but I do see the kind of macro system getting worse before it gets any better. I don't know that the macro, like the stock market, will be in a much better place by then, but I think we may see Bitcoin start to decouple from that over the coming months. It may follow it down a little bit more, but I think over time, especially in the face of the halving happening, regardless of the insane policies that I'm sure we've already seen and will continue to see, I think that will definitely spark some interest. Outside of that, one thing that I was really happy about. So I've been doing a little bit of work with BTC this past year, or I guess the past few months. I've been working with them, and just the other day, a few days ago, they announced that they dropped 80K towards BTC Pay server sponsoring one of the core devs. Which is, I think BTC Pay is one of the best and most important projects in the space. And I was super stoked to see that. So now they've got one of their core developers that doesn't have to think about anything and can just work on building upon Bitcoin. So super stoked. Developer's name is he goes by Cooks. I'm not sure how to say it, but anyways, either way, awesome
It's
dude.
Mr. Cucks.
Mr. Cucks, yes. But he's doing awesome work, and I'm super glad that now he can just focus in on that work with BTC Pay and not have to worry about it for the foreseeable future. So kudos to that team on all their awesome work.
Awesome. Well, thank you for returning to the show. You're awesome, man. And keep that strong hand going up there in cold Alberta, baby. All right, let's go to Guy. 6 months from now, will we smile? What will the big financial markets be like? Will the stock market still be down? And your conclusionary thoughts, anything that was left out, anything you wanted to promo or add?
Yeah. I definitely think in 6 months we'll be looking back on this as like every other previous crash, just like, wow, what a crazy time. Just like I'm now, like all day yesterday, all I was thinking back on 2013 and the other times that the couple of times that really I had that kind of underlying feeling of dread, and it gets duller every single time we do this, and becomes more of a, okay, here we are again. Even though I do kind of like to ride the roller coaster and get that adrenaline rush on occasion. But I think a crash is never fun, like there's a lot of people hurting, and like, I don't want to discount that. And there's a lot of people who, like, I know from personal experience how miserable it is to learn these lessons. And I have learned them numerous ways, in all the painful ways, over the years. But this is a long-term game, and so much of the core argument for the very value of Bitcoin was in the realization before everyone else, before the mainstream, of the current macro environment. And this is what Bitcoiners have been talking about as an inevitability since 2009. Like, I mean, literally, it is implied in the Genesis block. Like, it is stamped in the Genesis block that this is the problem. And all this turn of events with the coronavirus and the shaking of our global financial system sucks miserably. And where we are right now in Bitcoin, it might continue to suck more for a little while, but the value proposition, I think, is clearer than it's ever been. I think it's clearer than it was 2 weeks ago, because the Austrian theory, the underlying need for Bitcoin in the first place, was just completely validated. It's like, look at all this air that all this other shit is propped up on, and what we really need, a serious, stable, robust monetary policy, and it's the thing that we don't have anywhere else. So yeah, I'm not scared long term, But yeah, I know it's going to be a rough couple of weeks.
All right, Guy Swan, thank you. Thank you for returning to the show, man. Always a pleasure. Let's get Cory. He hadn't been on the show before. You're going to wrap it up 6 months from now, and anything else you wanted to say?
I mean, I'm just very interested to see how Bitcoin plays in this time. This is its first test to see if it does what it's supposed to do in a situation like this. Any sort of asset that's new and speculative can be, high beta and perform well in a risk-on situation, kind of out at the edge of people's portfolios when you're in a bull market and people are seeking yield. And that's where we've been since its inception. It launched in the depths of the last crisis, and it's been nothing but up for basically all assets ever since. So I'm just, fascinated to see what happens with Bitcoin as we go, down and sideways, and maybe see some pretty hairy things happen. I don't want those things to happen. I don't like bad things happening to people, but from like a coldly rational and just like, we are the people that thought that there was something wrong. We are the people that, saw the matrix for what it was. And we are the people that have chosen a different path. And, in particular, the people that are, probably in this chat and putting a good chunk of their lives toward, Bitcoin. This is our opportunity to double down, to work even harder, to spread the word faster and better, and educate people more, and be there with a helping hand as people reach out and are curious about this Bitcoin thing that they've been hearing about for the last few years, and didn't need to worry about it because their 401k was going up and everything seemed to just be fine, and whatever they were doing for their job was still working out because there was always work around the corner if it stopped or whatever. And all of those people are now thinking about that Bitcoin buddy of theirs that was telling them, Bitcoin was for times like this. So the influx of people that you're going to have reaching out, if they haven't already started in the last couple of days, as they have probably with most of us, for everybody that's watching and listening your show, Adam, you're going to get questions about Bitcoin, and just be ready to steer them in the right direction and help them find the right resources and steer them toward the right books and the right podcasts, and try to help them, they're going to inevitably learn a little bit about altcoins here or there. But, just like a parent saying, like, really, you're going to disappoint me if you become a junkie. You may still experiment with some weed or whatever, but like, if you really, really like don't want to disappoint your mom and dad, you might stay away from the harder stuff later in life. It's like that. Like, just get in there year early and make sure that they anchor on shitcoins being shitcoins and Ripple being a scam and Ethereum being like a weird experiment from, some cult worshipers, and, just make sure that you're in their ear first and loudest with Bitcoin is all that matters. Make sure they read just read the first 3 chapters of the Bitcoin Standard. Like, just get it done. They're going to read the whole thing, send them your favorite Stefan Livera episode, send them your favorite, readout from Guy, and just make sure they get started the right way. And unlike a lot of other things where if you're selling something, you are, you're spending some social capital or some relationship capital when you're selling things that aren't necessarily good for somebody. Bitcoin's very different. Like, you are selling them something that is good for them, that is only going to make them a better person, that's only going to open up their aperture and make them look at the world more accurately and make them seek truth. And it's going to change them for the better. So, if you want to be, you want to take that to its logical conclusion, like, you actually have a moral responsibility to spread Bitcoin to your friends and family and anybody that you meet.
Oh, wow. You went there, didn't you? Good way to conclude there, people. I love it. Hey, I hope everybody had a strong hand this week. It might be a little wild and bumpy, but that's what this whole Bitcoin roller coaster is about. We have been through wild roller coasters like this before, and there'll be more in the future. So get used to it. Don't be scared off now. The fun is just beginning. I hope everyone had a great week. Thank you, and have a great next week. Guest, you rocked. Best guest in the space. Remember, we do this show every Friday. It's This Week in Bitcoin here on the Bitcoin Meister channel. There's a new show every day. So I will be back a Saturday night for the Beyond Bitcoin show. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share this video, pound that like button, bang that bell button. Shabbat shalom, everyone. We will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Do not, stay healthy, strong hand. Bye-bye. See ya. And